Yeah.
Welcome to the PHNX Wildcats show, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. We're gonna work this one. We're gonna work this one out. Head to any Circle K. I thought you were pausing like, hey, Mike, shut up. Head on over to any Circle K Arizona location where you can get any size Polar Pop or Froster for just 79 cents now through September 3rd. Hello, Saul Bookman.
How's it going, Mike? How we doing?
Not too bad. Went golfing yesterday. Shot a 93, so I'm feeling all right about myself. All right.
Nice.
How are things? It's 74 degrees. How are things in the cool valley up there?
Yeah, not 74 degrees. I know that.
Yeah,
I don't have a lake by me. It's not nice and cool. It's a little humid outside. But it is overcast, and I will take that.
I can't imagine, but you know what? You enjoy Arizona. I will be back soon enough.
Mike, before you move on, I wanted to ask you, have you heard the new Childish Gambino album?
Oh, I have heard the new Childish Gambino album. Which one are you talking about?
There's a line in there that is my favorite line of all time.
What's it say? Which
He
one?
said, my mom knew she was feeding a goat.
Yes. Oh, that's very good. That's very good.
I love that line.
I do like that.
That's my Childish Gambino's kid.
Yeah. The Childish Gambino, I think, is one of the more, it's kind of weird. He is mainstream, but I always thought that he would cross over to like where everybody knew him, not just like, people that are like, I thought, like, I'll give you an idea. My mother knows who Drake is. She doesn't know who Childish Gambino is. Childish Gambino has that type of talent, I thought.
I mean, that's kind of on her, isn't it? Because
I think that's a user problem at that point.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. There's another goat you wanted to shout out today, though.
Oh, there is. Yes. Jack Murphy. All right. My guy. Now, Jack Murphy is currently my favorite person at the U of A, and I don't know that that's ever changing. Here's a picture of me and Murph that the great Shane Diefenbach took. So tell you the story here. A guy came up to me while we were at this, and he says, I've never seen Murph actually talk to somebody like he talks to you. He said he would have talked with you for like 30 or 40 minutes. And I like harassing Murph. Murph is a great dude. And here's also a video that I have, not the greatest audio, when I was pulling out of a Circle K at about this time last year.
Oh, my God. It's just a picture, Mike.
Oh, I didn't say, there's a video on it.
Yeah, there was a video on it, but we didn't get the download of the video.
That's okay. Well, either way, I yell out, hey, Murph, back the A. And he says, back the A, Luke, and keeps walking, doesn't break stride. That's our relationship. But, Saul, on a serious note, though, you know what it's like to have good people working behind the scenes. I mean, as the boss of a company. Jack Murphy is the epitome of that for Arizona basketball. Tommy Lloyd gets all the love, but, man, this dude works tirelessly. When I tell you this guy works 80 to 100-hour weeks a lot of the time, I mean that. You don't have successful programs without people like Jack Murphy.
No, not at all. And Tommy Lloyd knew what he was doing in keeping Murph on the staff. Like, again, tireless worker, has done it his whole life.
Right.
And he's had tremendous results, and he's built a lot of relationships, especially here in the Valley. He's built a lot of relationships across the country, and you gotta give him some credit for some of the recruiting success that this team has had, and the stability going from one regime to another. You gotta give him a lot of credit for that as well, and keeping everybody in the fold as best possible. And yeah, he's a tremendous person. I've never spoken to him though, so Murph, holla at your boy.
Oh, wow. Well, we will change that this year, Saul Bookman. I assure you of this one. You know what's really cool about Murph, too, and then we're going to get to some on-the-field stuff. Guys like Murph also were really, I think, instrumental in bridging the gap, because he came in here, obviously, with Lute Olson. He came in here as a young kid out of Las Vegas, given a chance, obviously, on the staff. And then, when Sean Miller came, and there were some issues with some other U of A players, Murph kind of soothed everything out. He's been a good transition as well for Tommy Lloyd, because if you remember, a lot of U of A players weren't happy about a non-alum getting the job. He smooths out a lot of stuff. You need somebody like that. If there's a consigliere of Arizona basketball, it is Jack Murphy.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it all. I don't really have anything to add to it.
I left
No
Saul
special
speechless.
anecdotes. I was actually reading, what are you doing for Murph's birthday?
Well, I am a little bit bummed. So I messaged him last night and I said, "Hey, happy early birthday, Murph." And he didn't respond to me. And then so I responded to him I messaged back to him. I said, "Murph," I said, "I'm not going to be ignored." And then so we got back in touch and stuff. But yeah, he's just enjoying his day. So it's hard for me to leave people like that alone, but I'm going to try to leave Murph alone as much as possible.
I mean, that's the best present you can give him.
Yeah, I know.
Just leaving him alone.
Murph, I promise I'll leave you alone today. Yes, very good stuff. So, all right, Saul, we got a ton to get to today. We're going to talk Arizona football, what kind of offense we should look for, because, Brent Brennan's kind of kept it a little bit of a mystery here. We know he's going to call plays. We're going to get into that, what we think we're going to look at. Tommy Lloyd, how will he maybe make some adjustments to the Big 12? Some TNT college basketball news that MacGyver put out that might pertain to the Big 12 that I thought was fascinating. So a lot of different stuff. But first, Saul, let's talk a little bit of Arizona offense. Now, you might say, Mike, why don't you know what kind of offense they're going to run? They've been pretty hush-hush about it. Brent Brennan hasn't been real, open about it. But we do know this. Dino Babers is the play caller. With Brent Brennan, he's always been a CEO coach. Babers has had a lot of different offenses. When he was here, he opened it up at Arizona. When he was at smaller schools, he opened up. He went more with the ground and pound at Syracuse. So what do you say, Saul Bookman?
I would disagree a little bit there, Mike. If you look at his early success at Syracuse, and that's what you really want to, that's what you're hoping to get here, right? Is you want this same type of explosive offense that he had early on at Syracuse as opposed to later on. Right. And if you look, you'll see that they did a lot of spread. And we have a little just a screenshot. They did a lot of spread and a lot of motion. Right here, you got the 4 wide out, 1 tight end set, obviously, and that's what Syracuse wants to do. They wanted to spread you out, but there was one big thing that was important to Syracuse at this point that U of A does have, and that's the ability to throw deep. Otherwise, you're not going to be as effective as you like. And when you have a T-Mac, that's going to help you quite a bit. The tall receivers, in order to throw downfield and spread the offense, that's what Dino Babers really took advantage of early on. If you look at San Jose State, guess what? A lot of the same shit. Right. And the great thing about Brent Brennan and San Jose State is, and Dino Babers, is they try to fool you with a lot of motion and a lot of action, right? So a lot of RPO in the spread formation, and taking advantage of quicker, smaller receivers while also being able to extend the field down the field, or extend the plays down the field. So that's the similarities between the two that they do share. Now, when you're talking about where they struggled, okay? When you're talking about where Syracuse struggled in the past, or even when San Jose State struggled a little bit in passes, defenses would adjust and go 3-3-5. Right. All right. And the reason why the teams like Florida State and Clemson could be successful against Syracuse is because they got those dogs up front to be able to go 3-3-5. Right. And they would basically try to shut you down over the top and force you to just kind of work your way down the field. Arizona has a dynamic backfield. So going 3-3-5 is not necessarily the best of the best interest either if you're going up against Arizona. So you kind of find yourself in a little bit of a middle ground. And at some point during the game, teams are going to have to decide what is hurting them more and what do they want to try to eliminate more.
I think Alonzo Carter, I thought, had a really good quote where it kind of piggyback on your point right there. He said, listen, we're obviously going to throw the ball. He said, but make no mistake, we are going to have a power running game here. That is what we do. And he said power running game doesn't necessarily just mean that I have a 280-pound back like Jerome Bettis and I'm just saying go 3 yards ahead. He said we are going to be physical. We are going to run the ball. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Saul, where you're talking about if you're running a 3-3-5 against this team, especially when you're returning 4 offensive line starters, especially, and 2 guys who are going to play in the NFL, that is you're playing with fire at that point because you've got more than capable backs, obviously, with a Corey Krosky-Merritt, with a Quali Conley, guys like that at FAM. So you're playing with fire there. So I think that bodes well, Saul, and I think they're not. I just hope they don't outthink themselves, which I don't think they're going to.
Well, my only concern about watching the tape of both San Jose State and Syracuse was there was quite a lot of quarterback runs off of the RPOs. And I don't know if I'm necessarily on board with Noah Fafita running the ball out of the backfield more than once or twice a game. Like
Right.
I don't really want to see that. So how do they combat that? Well, they combat it with reverses, motion reverses, motion handoffs to the wideouts to get them into to open space. You have dynamic players like Speedy Luke as well that can fool you into thinking it's an RPO, but maybe it's a fake RPO, and then it's just a dump off over the line to get him into open space, right? So if you go 3-3-5, you're not necessarily going to get the benefit of trying to attack them the way you want to. So that's where Arizona is positioned better than I think just about every other team in the Big 12. Is they have so many players that are multifaceted and dynamic that they could do multiple things. So you can't really just hone in on, okay, the big 6'4" running back is in the back. We know what he usually does. He's just going to try and get them a yard, right?
Right.
They don't really have that kind of dude. They have guys that are versatile, that have versatile skill sets.
I'm also excited, too, to look at the past a little bit. I was going back and reading some Anthony Cimino articles. What does that guy know? From like 1998. And this is when Dino Babers was the OC here. And, that was the best team in school history. They went 12-1. They finished 4th in the country. And they had a loaded offense. And keep in mind, they were throwing the ball before it was really popular to do it. I mean, you had with Dennis Northcutt, he was a 1,400-yard receiver. He was first pick in the second round. You had Jeremy McDaniel, 900-yard receiver, 5th-round pick. Then in the backfield, you had Trung Candidate, who was a 1,600-yard rusher. Then you had 2 NFL tight ends in Brandon Manamuliana and Mike Lucky. And then you had quarterbacks, obviously, with the two-headed monster. My point is this was still back in a day when things weren't that as diverse as they are now. And he was, I don't want to say on the cutting edge of that, but he opened up the Arizona offense more than we've really ever seen before. And that was back in 1998, Saul. And that was with a team that had multiple first-round picks, had, that team had 19 NFL players on it. So he knows what to do with talent. That's why I'm excited to see what he can do. I really am.
Yeah, I don't really have any reservation in fear of Dino Babers being the offensive play caller. I think that is one of his strong suits, and I do think that typically when you're that guy, it's really, really hard to be able to perfect being the offensive play caller or defensive play caller, depending on what coach you are, and also run your system. Very few can do that. So I'm okay with Brent Brennan kind of delineating that to Dino Babers because I feel like they have similar styles anyway. Right. Now, Brennan does favor the run a little bit more, even out of the spread, but I think that Dino will find the happy balance. And the great thing about both of them is I definitely think that they're both going to analyze this group and figure out, okay, what's really our number one strength, and let's hedge that way a little bit more than the perceived other strength.
What do you think of the CEO head coach as opposed to the play caller head coach, Saul Bookman?
I'd rather have the CEO head coach.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Because I want my assistant coach or my offensive coordinator, defense coordinator to be focused and all in on just that side of the ball and understanding what exactly they need to do, instead of me trying to focus on that and coming up with the plays and stuff like that, which is great. But then I'm also, my day-to-day is swamped. I also have to keep an eye on the defense. I also have to do X, Y, and Z, right? Jed Fish was able to pull it off to a certain degree for sure. But again, we've made this point before. If Jaden Delore doesn't get hurt, how effective is it really at the end of the day? I don't know.
Right.
But watching this, that's how I would do it. And listen, if I was a head coach, that's exactly what I would want to do. And I know back in the day, I was a little bit more of a control freak than I am today. But I'm not going to lie. It's kind of nice.
So, Bookman, you were a drill sergeant. Of course you're a control freak.
It's kind of nice not having to do as much work as I used to, because I just hand it off to these guys and they take it and they do a great job with it. So
because you have people around you in the inner circle. This is true.
That's right. I do.
All right. Very, very cool. That makes me laugh each time I say that. Shane Diefenbach, part of the inner circle now.
Palmer Hoffman in the chat did ask, how big is Wiley's receiving abilities going to be missed? They'll be missed, but I don't think they're going to be missed quite as, it's not going to be a big gap. Right. Michael Wiley is a phenomenal talent, but I think we have the kind of backs now to supplant that.
Yeah, and the other thing that's I think it's going to be really interesting too is to watch how the tight end is utilized here. That was one of Brennan's first things that because he's he hasn't publicly talked about a lot. He said we're big believers in the tight end. I believe if you have multiple tight ends incorporated in, I can especially if they can catch the ball, we can be more physical at the front line of scrimmage, and we can also keep the passing game open as well. You are going to see a ton of 2 tight end sets, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if you're going to see 2 tight end sets maybe 60 to 65% of the time. And Arizona's got a lot of tight ends. That's going to be a very interesting camp battle to watch because you've got between Dorian Thomas, Kean Burnett, Sam Olsen, Roberto Miranda, who's probably your starter right now. You've got 4 or 5 guys that are all going to see the field. So that's going to be one when we talk about camp breakdowns as we get closer to it. The tight end's going to be a really good one to watch there, Saul.
Yeah, and they'll use the tight end and spread as well. I saw that multiple times where the tight end would line up on the line, but he would also be a little bit out, and sometimes even in the backfield. So, again, the diversity of these players being able to do multiple things and being required to do multiple things is a benefit to this team. And I think it makes them even more dangerous, provided they're not a jack of all trades, master of none scenario. Like they got to be good at one specific thing at a high level in order to be as dynamic as they are. So if you're going to be a tight end, and they know they want to predominantly use you in the run game, then you got to be an excellent run blocker. And then the receptions and stuff like that are secondary, but you're still good at that.
When I think of this Arizona team, I'll be honest with you, Saul. Listen, there's certainly some question marks. Who's that other tackle going to be? Is Malachi Riley able to step up and, fill that void? I expect that this is my opinion, barring injury, this should be a top 15 national offense. I think with the conference you're in, with the talent you have, I believe it should be a top 15 national offense as far as scoring, yards, whatever you want to put it at. What say you?
Absolutely. I would be very, very disappointed if this was not a top 15 offense. I'd be disappointed if it wasn't a top 10 offense. I just think that they have too much firepower across the board.
They have too much firepower across the board, and they also you also have a quarterback, and I heard this term. I've heard this term a couple times with Noah Fafita as well. That if somebody gets open, they're going to get the football, and I think that is such. And listen, in the NFL. Listen, I know quarterbacking's not the greatest it's ever been, but in the NFL, sometimes you can throw out a Nate Peterman and he's just going to throw an interception as opposed to throwing a touchdown. But when it comes to, sorry, Nate Peterman.
Nate Peterman taking strays over here.
Yes, sorry, Nate Peterman. Nate Peterman. I would love to be in your position right now. You would probably not prefer to be in mine, so take that. But when it comes to Noah Fafita, though, just look at how that offense changed, man. When he got everybody started eating, and I'll never forget Kevin Green's dad was on the show, and he said, listen, man, he said, when Noah took over, all my fears were alleviated because I knew, and I told him, I said, listen, if you get open, you're going to eat. And if you don't get open, then you're not going to eat. And that's, I think as a wide receiver, I think that's got to be one of the more assuring things, just knowing that, all right, I did part of mine. Now I got somebody that can get me the ball because I can't imagine there's anything more maddening than getting open and not getting the ball.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine that. If you go back and watch like last year's San Jose State team, specifically, go watch the USC game, right? Oh my God. The amount of open receivers and drop balls were just unbelievable. Right. So schematically speaking, they got to their points. Now, USC was a trash-ass defense. Don't get me wrong. That's not the premier example of what I'm talking about. But they were able to get to their spots. They were open in those spots. And Noah Fafita's accuracy is far better than the quarterback that they had at San Jose State. I don't even know his name because I don't care. Right. But the spots were open, but receivers were just dropping crazy balls left and right. And when you look at that, you got to feel good about how, schematically speaking, Brennan will be able to take advantage of, zones, obviously, prime matchups on the outside with man-to-man, especially with T-Mac. It's just, I really feel good about where they're going to go.
Yeah, and honestly, we also got to talk about the clutch factor a little bit. Craig Elysian. By the way, Craig, welcome to the chat. Trash defense is a compliment. Well, Saul is a leader of men, so he's not trying to totally throw him under the bus. So trash is.
Well, he did say trash ass. So
I did.
All right, well, trash ass defense. He could have said even worse, but that's Saul being diplomatic. In his job, he has to be diplomatic at times. But with this Arizona offense, the other thing, you go back and look at these games. How many clutch moments were there from Noah Fafita? Now, granted, they ended up losing in quintuple overtime against USC. I get that. But, man, he brought him back, made all the plays he needed to be able to make in overtime against Stanford. First game of the season, when he came in, Arizona was down, led him right down to a touchdown, then salted the game away. Oklahoma, same thing. Arizona gets down. Colorado, the vaunted Colorado Buffalo. Noah Fafita salted that game away. So that's another thing, too. When you've got a quarterback that you know is clutch, if the game is close, there is nothing like having that. Listen, I'm not a Patriots or a Buccaneers fan, but I can only imagine what it must have been like rooting for Tom Brady, saying, well, if the game's close, I like my chances. That's where I'm at with Arizona.
No, I mean, when we talked to Noah at Big 12 Media Day, I asked him, I said, what's the one moment or game last year that you were like, damn, I wish I could get that one back? And he said USC, because he knows that was a trash ass defense.
Right.
And he knows they should have dog walked the hell out of them. And they could have. But what did he bring up? That one interception. Mm-hmm. And that one interception kind of turned the tide a little bit and got them back into the game. And he still remembers that now. So he understands like how to take advantage of good, piss poor defenses, I should say. And his accuracy is going to take them, it's going to keep them consistent offensively. That's the thing. It's like his consistency will keep them consistent all season long, no matter what. It's just about, can they get those extra plays in order to really like win by 14, or is it going to be a close game every week?
Right. What's worse, piss poor or trash ass?
Ooh.
Hold on, I hear what you say.
Worse is trash ass. Yeah, piss poor could be just, you had a bad series, right? But trash asses, no, your whole game is trash.
Here's where, I agree with you, Saul. I think you're right. Piss poor to me is more of a, dude, that was a crappy effort. What are we doing here? That you mailed that one in. Whereas trash asses, dude, I can't work with you. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to start with. You have no talent. So here's what I would say. If Saul Bookman came to me and said, Mike Luke, you were piss poor today, that would be my way of saying, man, I got to step my game up. I got to work harder. If he came to me and said, you're trash ass, dude, I guess I got to get my resignation letter. I got no clue where to go with any of that stuff. So again, we agree on this one. Now we do agree with this. Dennis Walsh already in here. Back the A, back the bike, back the boss. Saul Bookman as well. All right, now I want to get back to Brent Brennan for a second. Then we're going to move over to a little bit of basketball, some scheduling, and some cool stuff. But I also like the CEO approach a great deal because, listen, when you become, and you know this, when you become the head of a company or you become the, where everything, the buck stops, like he said, his job is to hire good people. His job is to hire people that he trusts. And he says, if I bring in somebody that this offense isn't getting it, that's still on me at the end of the day. I am going to trust them. But I like being able to have the overview where I can step into the running backs room or I can step into the DB room. He mentioned a coach and he wouldn't name the name. He said, we had a coach when I was playing who literally never showed up in the room. And so, it's not that they're not working hard. They're just focused on something else. I very much like that approach. I agree with you on that, Saul.
Yeah, I think the epitome of high-level coaching is also who are you surrounding yourself with and who are you bringing into your organization, right?
Right.
And if those coaches come in and they perform at a high level and your team is performing at a high level and they also get opportunities, that's what you want. Like, look at the Nick Saban tree, right? Like, it's glorious.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many.
Dan Lanning,
coaches,
Kirby
right?
Smart, just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, they're just phenomenal coaches, right? And so you hope that that's what you're trying to emulate here at the U of A. That's the whole point of this, is to build relationships, build players, develop them, and also get the right people in the building that fit the culture and can develop your players alongside with you to give them better opportunities down the road. That's what good coaches do.
Right, for sure. And behind every good coach is a Circle K. I think that is something that we do need to discuss here. You would agree with this,
I did not know that, but I do agree.
You do agree with this. All right, here's the deal with Circle K. There is a Circle K 18 miles from my house. I am staying in Zephyr Cove. I am going to be making the trip to Inkland Beach to be able to get a picture of a Circle K. There is not one here. I've already looked. I will be making this journey in the next couple days to prove to everybody about the Circle K, and we will get a Back the K tweet out. But you could also join the Inner Circle for free, like our good friend Shane Diefenbach. By downloading the Circle K app today, terms and conditions apply at participating locations. locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Trust
What are you
me.
going to get when you take a picture? What are you going to get there?
I'm going to get, well, first of all, the gas there, I was looking at the gas prices, cheaper than where we are. I'm definitely going to get that. I'm going to get a Slim Jim, and I think I might even get I don't know, I might get a Polar Pop, I might get a Polar Pop as well for when I go down to the beach and work on my tan, because you know what? When people are looking at my tan, they're also saying, that's a Circle K tan right there.
Yeah,
so
that's what I think too.
I mean, let's be honest here, but
Well,
Circle K.
Plus, the gas prices are 10 cents cheaper because you're an inner circle member.
I'm an Inner Circle member. Like I said, I'm very much looking forward to this.
Shane, while Mike reads this next ad read, can you please pull up that picture on the graphic?
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, I'll keep going. All right, well, I got another one then. Four Peaks, my friend. Four Peaks. So, Saul Bookman, you like Four Peaks. Shane Diefenbach likes Four Peaks as well. I think that goes without saying. But here's the deal with the Four Peaks. A lot of people forgot about the Four Peaks last year because there was also a Four Peaks basketball movement with Azulis Tabelis, Umar Ballo, leader of men, Dylan Anderson, and Henry Vasar. But this is the original Four Peaks. Check it out. Kilt Lifter. Our good friend Kobe Thiel got me onto Kilt Lifter. Very good stuff. Erica L. Day likes it as well. But here's the deal. You might say, Mike, where can I find all this stuff? Great. Thanks for asking. Visit fourpeaks.com/locator to find all your favorite beers and events. Check out at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. Must be 21 years or older to drink Four Peaks. Please drink responsibly. Plus, when you see the little van going through, you can say, man, I know that. That's very cool. Check it out, Four Peaks. All right, Saul Bookman, what were you going to say?
Four Peaks is fantastic. Love Four Peaks. Yep. The peach ale is exquisite. And then Oktoberfest is also coming back here shortly. But, you know, Mike, you just name dropped where you're at, Zephyr Cove. And for people that are unfamiliar into how tough Mike is living it, here's an image of Zephyr Cove as we speak. You are not roughing it whatsoever.
No. I decided, you know what? I had to get out of the hood for a little bit, and I had to kind of go just mingle with the folks. I did get attacked by a goose the other day, though. I was
74 degrees and that beautiful crystal clear water. I've never been to Tahoe, but this is definitely making me want to rethink my life choices.
Saul, it's the coolest place I've ever been in the United States. I've been to some pretty cool places. It's like Vegas meets a beach meets a national park. It is it's amazing. There is it makes me feel awesome, and I like coming here. This is my one retreat each year, but Saul Bookman, we very much appreciate because he still allows me to work during it, which makes me excited as well.
Can we come back to the goose attacking you?
Oh, yeah, dude. So there's these. Oh, all right. Well, hey, I don't get in trouble for going off topic here. You guys are asking me to do this. Okay. So anyways, all right, there's these turd geese that are on the beach. And these things are, I don't know if you've ever encountered a goose, but a lot of times these things are total jerks. And they come up to you and they're menacing. They start and hissing and stuff. So anyways, I'm walking my mother's service dog, and this one comes up to me and he starts hissing and stuff. And then I'm like, no, dude, buzz off. So I gave him the shoe, which I think he thought meant come closer to it. And then he came closer to me and he started quacking at me. So I threw a pine cone at him. I wasn't going to take it. I was not going to take it. And he ran off like the little wimp that he is. But I have one other goose story here. And so they hang out in front of a Safeway here as well. And they're these geese that, so anyways, there's like 10 of them coming to me. And I jump into the Safeway. I'm ducking for cover. And this dude next to me, I don't jump in. This dude next to me who's probably about 6'3", 250, 260. He jumps into Safeway while I stand there, so I follow his lead and go in there. And I'm like, dude, why'd you get in there to get? And he's like, deal with 10 of those things? You crazy, man? And I was like, yeah. And then so we let some other woman get accosted by him. But again, these things, these things suck. They're awful. Don't like them.
A herd of geese is called a gaggle, just so you know.
Is that really what they're called?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Michaela, the great Mac also does not like geese as well. I always send her pictures of that. So anyways, geese. All right, now, Saul, you're getting me off topic here. All right, now, we've got good Arizona basketball news, Saul Bookman. All right, not finalized yet, but we can go through some of these, the schedule here and kind of talk a little bit about what we see and what we think about this schedule. All right, now again, a couple of these are to be determined, but here are the ones that are set in stone. November 4th, Canisius, then November 9th, Old Dominion, good tune-up games. Then November 15th, Saul, at Wisconsin, my friend, at Wisconsin. That's where it starts getting interesting. Also, I don't like it, though, because Arizona plays Houston football that day as well.
Oh, that's a tough back-to-back right there.
I was going to say, so 2 post-game shows then. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. But Arizona, Wisconsin, listen, going in, there's obviously a lot of thoughts about Arizona's Wisconsin. They smacked the heck out of Wisconsin last year. I hope they can do the exact same thing this year, Saul Bookman. Because
I mean, Wisconsin put it together towards the end of the season. They were a really good team by the end of the year. Didn't do so well in the tournament, but they've always been a solid program. And when you go to Wisconsin, that's going to be a really, really tough game. So that's a good primer for what's about to happen the next week on the 22nd, Mike.
Yeah, on the 22nd, Duke at home,
Let's go!
my friends. Duke at home. This is where college basketball, I think we've missed it the last growing up under Lute Olson, the thing that I loved so much, and I took it for granted, was that he would schedule anybody. He didn't care. He'd schedule anybody. You want home and homes with Kansas, North Carolina, Michigan State, you have it. He basically brought on all comers. That kind of got away a little bit here, but Tommy Lloyd clearly wants to play the best. And the fact that he and John Shire wasted no time getting this deal together, Saul, I got to give the new guard a lot of credit there because they're giving the fans what they want.
Absolutely. You got to give John Shire a lot of credit for that as well, because, listen, Coach K got his shit kicked in when they came to McHale long ago, didn't like it, never wanted to play U of A again, had to a couple times, but he was scared, ran away with his tail between his legs. So John Shire was like, no, man, we're going to buck up. We're going to play the best in the country. I love that. I love Tommy Lloyd's approach to this. Like, I want to see the best. And I don't want to see them in a neutral court. Man, F
Agreed.
that crap.
Agreed.
I want to see them home and home. It's so much more exciting to beat somebody on their home court. It is. If Duke beats us at home, they're going to be on cloud 9. We beat them last year. We were on cloud 9. So, and plus, guys, let's talk about the real elephant in the room. Cooper Flagg is coming to McHale. Right. And I want to kick the ever-loving crap out of him and Duke. Please let this happen.
Ryan Hansen, who was kind of in charge of scheduling back in the day for Lute, made a point when he was on the show last time here. He said, Lute tried his hardest, but when you're a program like Arizona, listen, you're not quite Duke, obviously, but Lute Olson's not going to sit here and say, yeah, we'll travel to McHale and then we'll do a neutral site game in Kansas City or something. You don't do that because they're basically just spitting in your face at that point. Yeah. That's not where – but, again, I got to give these guys a lot of credit as well. Duke's going to be loaded as well. I like John Shire. He's recruiting at a super high level. This is also going to be an interesting game because, like you said, you've got a guy in Cooper Flagg who is obviously very, very good. Arizona, who are they going to put on him? Because, again, small forward, you put KJ on him? Because that's probably where I would go. And who are you putting on him? Who are you putting on him?
That's a tough matchup.
It is.
Cooper Flagg is really, really good. I'm not even going to – he's tall, he's lengthy. Shit, he was giving Team USA problems.
You see those highlights? Yeah.
Yeah, and that was legit. I got it in firsthand knowledge, that kid is the business.
Right.
And so – It's going to be a problem, but I definitely think, listen, Arizona has always been great at home. They're going to have to contend with him. They're going to have to be a little bit versatile. They're going to have to figure out how to defend him at a high level. You're probably going to see a little bit of Trey Townsend on him. You're probably going to see a little physicality on him, but he's a good player. So, if he's on that day, you're going to have a problem. KJ can step up, obviously, but there is a significant height difference there. Between Cooper and KJ. So he's going to have his hands full if he decides to take that challenge. So it's going to be a fun-ass game because the flip side of that, Mike, is, hey, Duke's got to guard them too. And
no doubt.
We got weapons.
Yeah, we got weapons as well. And here's the thing with KJ, this is kind of where you wish you had Keyshawn Johnson. Can you come back for one more game just to put him on Cooper Flagg or something like that? But Arizona,
I was about to say his name and then I realized no, we can't because he's not here anymore.
But the thing with with Cooper Flagg though, he's also, let's be honest here, he's going to be the first pick in the draft. He's a 6'9", 6'10" small forward. There's not a lot of teams in the country that are going to be able to cover him. It's going to be interesting to see what Tommy Lloyd does in that regard. So you got that. Then you got obviously You're entering a tournament, and then it gets very interesting here because you got a couple games that they're still working on right now. You're working on Central Michigan, very likely. You got UCLA in Phoenix, December 14th. By the way, I got to give those guys a lot of credit as well. I got to give Tommy Lloyd, I got to give Mick Cronin credit for making this one happen. I need it. What's that?
I will never, ever, ever give Mick Cronin credit for anything.
Yeah, that's fair.
He probably did it with the utmost resistance.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, how about this? We give Tommy Lloyd credit for forcing it to happen. How about that?
Yes, there we go. That's
all
what
right.
I like. That's the spin I want to hear.
That needs to happen, though. And here's my next question, though, Saul. So this is obviously a loaded conference schedule. Would you like to see him continue this going into the Big 12 then? Obviously, we're in the Big 12 this year. But would you like to see where you've got, 3 top 12 teams at some points before you even get into Big 12 play? What say you on that one?
Yeah, I think 2 to 3 top 25 opponents in the preseason is good for me. Just because of the gauntlet that is the Big 12. I listen, if it was any other conference, if it was the Pac-12 last year, I would say, yeah, like 5 or 6 would be great. But you got Kansas, Houston, Iowa State. You got just a loaded Big 12, and so you don't want to wear yourself out too much in the non-conference before you get to the conference. So I would say, yeah, 2 to 3 games a year where it's a top 25 opponent, maybe one of those in the top 10, and I'm good.
Right. Now, which leads me to my next question here. Tommy Lloyd going into the Big 12, and I know we've talked about it a lot, but Lute Olson had moments where he had to kind of switch things up. He went from the Tucson Skyline, where you had really good players, but they were more Sean Rooks, Brian Williams types, and you were having problems against, your East Tennessee States with little quick guards and stuff. And so he switched it over to, obviously, a Damon Stoudemire, Khalid Reeves, and on. Everybody knows the story. I'm interested to see what Tommy Lloyd learns in year 1 in the Big 12, because I do believe when it comes to competition, I think you can prepare for stuff, but Saul, until you're on the ground, until you actually see it up close, I don't think it's really easy to be able to just say, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm interested to see what his takeaways are. There adjustments? What are there? What say you?
I think he's already kind of adjusted to the Big 12 to a certain degree, because the first 2 years it was more of like that offensive European flow, trying to get a little bit more spacing in the game. And then last year you saw him really make a concerted effort to shore up the defensive side by getting Jaden Bradley in here and Keshad Johnson, right? So that defensive side became a little bit more prominent, even though they had a good defense before, but it was mainly reliant on Christian Koloko. Right. And so, and Tubelis was not a defender. And so there was way too much freedom in year 2 to be that offensive powerhouse. And you saw them get bounced by Princeton because they couldn't defend at all down the stretch. So they modified that last year. And I think that's you want a healthy balance of both, right? Everybody needs to be a threat offensively. They don't need to be a crazy high level threat. They just need to be a threat. You need to have 1 or 2 guys that are a high level threat. They have that. And then defensively, you got to be shored up. You got to be strong. You got to be physical, because in the Big 12, those guys will get you if you're not ready for it physically, especially the Houstons and Kansases of the world.
One thing that Lloyd, yeah, for sure. One thing, Iowa State, just keep going. That's so good. I think Lloyd is really good, and Muehlbach always makes his point. Lloyd is really good after the season, I think, of taking inventory and of switching things up. I'm curious, whether that's, all right, well, the point guard, we pushed this. Maybe it's just better for both sides to move on. Your Kirk Carisas, your Kylan Boswells, et cetera, looking to get a little bit more physical up front. I'm curious how that plays this year in the Big 12, because I don't know that you can, I don't know that you can necessarily get away with guys whose heads just aren't in the game at some points, or for whatever reason. I think, I don't know that you can wait to make that Jaden Bradley move if you are going to make that move until after the season, because I think you could get away with it in the Pac-12. I don't think you can get away with it in the Big 12. That, to me, is going to be interesting to see. Does he have a quicker hook come in the Big 12 if, say, if we have a Boswell situation where it's just it's not clicking? I'm going to be interested to see how that works out.
Oh man, do you see somebody that
No,
I don't really think I see anybody on this roster right now that was like that, in terms of just, it felt like everything was between the ears for Kylan. Caleb, I don't feel that way with, because I feel like Caleb has no conscience.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
He's just going to chuck and duck, and I'm okay with that, because he was. I mean, think about this. Like, I know he got a lot of shit towards the end of the year last year, but man, if we didn't have him in the non-conference, we don't win half those games because he was so damn clutch.
You know how many games, and this really bothers me because I think people have just such a time and place memory. They're like, well, I don't want him back. He didn't play. He was shooting one-legged threes against Clemson. Dude, if Arizona did not have Caleb Love last year, their record would not be nearly as shiny as it was. I mean, he, like you said, and he was the one guy that could basically make a play off the bounce. And I think a lot of times people are like, well, I don't like that he, everyone's standing around. Well, he's doing that. Well, he's the one that wants the ball. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. Help him move. Go do something. He was the one that wanted the ball.
Mike, thank you for saying that. Thank you so much for saying that, because I remember a situation in 2017 sitting courtside in San Jose watching Arizona play Xavier, and I watched the last 8 minutes, and the only dude on the court that was not afraid of the moment was Alonzo Trier. He kept going to get the ball because nobody else wanted the ball down the stretch. And I know everybody kind of crapped all over Sean Miller, and to a certain degree, I kind of blame Sean Miller for not calling a timeout and designing a play specifically for Lauri Markkanen to get the ball. But Lauri, if you go watch, Lauri had no intent to try and get anywhere near the ball.
Right.
And knowing how good he is right now, like, that's definitely on Lauri, because Alonzo Trier, again, no conscience. He was like, I'm the dude. I'm going to shoot as many times as I want. And he was good. It just didn't work out.
It was the old Phil Jackson quote when Michael Jordan was trying to find the happy medium about getting his teammates involved and doing his thing. And Phil Jackson said, listen, man, when the game's on the line, you do you. If they don't follow, they don't follow, but you got to be you. And I think that's really about the best quote when it comes to clutch time moments, that you got to be you. And you know what? Because if they're going to follow, they're going to follow, but you still got to be you. That's where like I said, I'm very excited to see what he can do. I'm very excited that he's back too. And I think something that we always need to keep talking about is that the coaching staff loves him. They adore him. He's always out in the community. He's always out doing stuff. He's just a good dude. So again, an easy guy to root for as well. And it's also one as well where you don't judge a book by its cover necessarily. You judge the book by what you're reading. Because if you were to listen to some people, I don't want him, he's a cancer. Coaching staff loves him. That's enough for me, Saul Bookman.
Yeah, I don't know how you can sit there and say somebody's a cancer if you're not really in that locker room and you don't really see how things are operating. Listen, I've seen it firsthand where some guys will change from practice to the game.
Right.
Like, for whatever reason, it just happens sometimes, and you can't really control that. And so I'm not going to shame a player for trying to step up and take the lead when everybody else seems like they're being a little complacent. So I've never shamed Love for doing that. I like how aggressive he is. Hey, you're going to live by the three. You're going to die by the three. You're going to live by that player. You're going to die by that player. But if Caleb Love doesn't play at a high level, Arizona's not winning a national championship, point blank. You need him to play at a high level. So, shitting on the guy down the stretch of a season, knowing that he's getting through it and he's trying to get through it, doesn't really help the situation. And I'm not saying everybody just needs to, be sunshine and rainbows even when they're 0 for 18 from 3. But I think the amount of aggressiveness towards some of these players was a little over the top. And I hope that changes as we move forward.
I also think the next step for him, and we've talked about this before, the next step, though, for him is to be kind of a recession-proof player. When your three isn't falling, this isn't a dude that's just kind of a stiff that if his three isn't falling, he's got to be able, he can get to the basket. Again, I want 6 free throws per game from him because he can get to the bucket and, here's where I'm at with Caleb Love. I can't, if the shot's not on and he's a streaky shooter, I still need you to be able to impact the game. I still need you to be able to get 15, 16, 17 points, and he can do that. And when he gets to the free throw line, he's nails. So, again, take advantage of your skill set.
There is a comment by Sam Fisher in the chat. I think that's what his name is.
Yeah, you got it.
Pull it up.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
So Sam Fisher saying, not calling him a cancer or a bad dude, but the offense is undeniably stagnant. And I would agree. At times, it definitely was stagnant for sure, by a mile. But I do think that he will learn because, let's think about this. When he was at North Carolina, he had a lot of point guard duties at North Carolina as well.
Right.
Okay. And so there was a little bit of a transition to become, basically completely away from being the point to basically the shooting guard. And I think when you look at that Clemson game, the few bright spots Caleb Love have were where, Mike?
Yep, get to the hoop.
At the rim.
At the
Absolutely,
rim.
at the rim.
To start the second half.
Exactly. The and one to get them back to within 4. Like, those things are the ones that I think he's going to look at and be like, okay, I need to do a little bit more of that next year. I need to hit the mid-range a little bit more next year. Make myself a little bit more dynamic all the way across the board. And in addition to that, let's think about Tommy Lloyd. And we just talked about how he's constantly evaluating and manipulating the sets that he has in order to try and get the very most out of his players. I think Tommy Lloyd looked at the tape last year and said, okay, there was probably 20% of the time Caleb Love was on the court, the ball stopped moving, and we gotta make sure we avoid that a little bit more this year. So how do we make sure we have a little bit more of a flow offensively with him in there? I think they're both going to learn, they're both going to adapt, and they're both going to improve over the summer, and they'll be better for it this year.
People, just in case you forget, because a lot of people forget, he was the Conference Player of the Year, and he was a third-team All-American last year. If those players want to come back, you take them back. It is very simple. All right, now, something else that Saul Bookman does a lot of NBA stuff, and this transfers to a little NBA. Can we pull that tweet up from MacGyver, Shane Diefenbach? This makes me excited because there was some talk a little bit about this. Warner Discovery contacts telling Yormark that if Big 12 decouples basketball rights from the next media contract, they will be a highly motivated bidder. Inside the NBA, folks, possibly doing college basketball and doing the Big 12. Yes, please sign me up for 2 every single day of the week, Saul Bookman. We need these folks out there. This would be fantastic.
I don't know if it would be the inside the NBA folks, but I am excited by this because I think you'll see some of those tea leaves starting to happen if you see the likes of a Gonzaga or a UConn join the conference at some point. I think that's what. Listen, the Yormark has made no bones about trying to be the best basketball conference in the country.
Right.
So if you start to see that kind of shift happen from a basketball perspective, you can just all but guarantee that they're looking at an opportunity like this to separate football from basketball and have more revenue come in from a basketball perspective, which would be incredible. And again, that's just great business. That's good business.
And again, when you say you're open for business, he means he's open for business. When you've got entities like that coming to you and saying that if you're going to, decouple and turn this into some basketball only stuff, we're very interested. That means that you've got a product already that people are starting to buy into, that people are intrigued by. And if you've got that inventory there as well, that's a big part of it. And he said this a bunch of times, and his Clark, who's kind of his number 2, made the point where he said, listen, obviously football's king. We know all of that. But guess what? College basketball runs March, and all of that primetime inventory from January and February, that is all college basketball. So the whole idea that when somebody tries to say it's a spit in the bucket compared to football, no, it's not, because you can just tell by the months that it controls. This would be a really cool thing, and like I said, especially if they lose the NBA rights, I would be very intrigued by what they have up their sleeves.
Why do you think college football is going to a playoff? Hello, March Madness.
Correct.
Like
it's just more exciting.
The hype behind a 12-team or 16-team tournament in football is going to try to rival what they've done in the basketball space with March Madness, because March Madness brings in significant revenue. It's not something to just be like, well, they bring in a fraction, so it's not worth it. No, if that fraction still brings in like $1 billion every 5 years, then you got to go with it, and you got to recognize that that's a thing.
Yeah.
So it might not be the mega billion-dollar deal that college football is going to bring in, but it's still significant, right? Especially for a broadcast or an entity that just lost the NBA.
And this is very much, again, this is the outside-the-box thinking that we're talking about that is actually effective. We've talked about the private equity before, about how that's a way that he's going to try to lure a Clemson and a Florida State over. Things like this, too. If TNT or Disney is saying, we're interested in your product, that's a good thing, especially because they're going to have some money to spend as well. Dennis Walsh says you could see NBA Les Turner getting very motivated. Well, like I said, I'll be interested to see how this plays out. But listen, it's the best basketball conference going. And another thing, too, in one of the subtweets was that they're very enamored by the fan base because, again, you know what you don't like necessarily broadcasting? Games where there's nobody at them. There's going to be games at the Big 12. That is a huge part of this. Nothing looks worse than having a game where there's 10 people in the stands, as opposed to it's a rowdy environment. People tune into that stuff, Saul Bookman.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. Nobody's going to watch ASU on those games.
Yeah, it just is what it is, man. It just is what it is. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Also, I got a before we sign off here, I got a picture of from the other day that I just sent Shane Diefenbach. This was I took this. Hold on, there you go as well. Emerald Bay, my friend. I will.
Where is that view from?
That's Emerald Bay. That's South Lake Tahoe. That's about 14 miles where I'm from.
Did you take that picture?
I did take that picture. Yeah.
From?
What's that?
Where were you at? Were you like in your house?
No. We traveled over to there. It's about 12 miles away.
Man, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, but you know what's cool about that, though, is that little island. You can take like a ferry boat over there, but you can't really see it. But there's a Viking castle that is beneath this, and it was made by a Norwegian immigrants in like the 1800s or something. I'll get a picture and I'll post it for the next show. But so there's a castle down there, and it's like a tourist attraction. I'm telling you, this thing has everything, Saul Bookman. Everything. You should take you and the missus sometime here. I think she'd like it.
That's funny. That's awesome. That's really cool, man. You might have to give me the directions.
I got you, man. All right, I got that. Now, also, no better time to become a PHNX diehard. This is very, very true. We've had a couple new people join, all kinds of good stuff. Diehard memberships, free t-shirt of your choice from the locker, access to all the premium written content, and there is some very good stuff there. Entrance to the Discord lounge, which is popping off, discounts on all events, and closer access to Saul Bookman.
Yeah, I'm just one click away at that point.
Yeah, no, you really are.
No, listen, we have tremendous events that are starting to happen. Actually, next Wednesday we have our pool event at Chase Field. Nice. We got the whole pool reserved to ourselves. It's gonna be awesome. It's the first time I've ever been there. And the people that got to sign up that were diehards got it at a discounted price, and they got a discount on a shirt, and they get hooked up with a bunch of food and drinks. Like, that's what we do. We hook up people with the best time of their lives, hopefully. So become a part of this diehard family. It's fantastic. We try to do everything we can to make the experiences of camaraderie and supporting your favorite teams as high level as possible. The more Wildcats we can get in the Discord, the more Wildcat events we can do. So please become a diehard today.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we'll be back with you tomorrow. But for the boss, Saul Bookman, for the precocious Shane Diefenbach, 2 of the 3 parts of the inner circle, I am merely Mike Luke. You've been listening to the AC Wildcats podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.